The setting is spectacular. Look at that. The river with the hills and the mist. Basically encouraging him to, like a dummy, you know, hey, dummy, get off the highway. You're going to get killed. You know, I want to have my own personal experience. I don't want to recreate someone else's life. I want to live my own life. It's starting to shake. Good morning from Pai, Thailand. It's early in the morning. Sun is just coming up over the hills ahead of me. And I'm currently walking across a bridge that has a few different names and has quite a bit of history. But I think it's most commonly known as the Pai Memorial Bridge or the Pai World War II Memorial Bridge. And I don't have all of the dates at the tip of my fingers, but the basic idea is that the original bridge that was here was built by the Japanese during World War II, and it was connected with their efforts fighting, of course, in World War II, and they were trying to build a supply line into to the west towards Myanmar, which was held by the UK at that time. And that makes it quite an interesting story, because you certainly hear a lot about bridges when you look into the history of World War II. We've got the famous bridge over the River Kwai, a lot of bridges that were built by the Japanese. And the story is similar to other bridges in that they used local labor to build this bridge. And they used elephants for carrying large pieces of timber out of the forest here. And the original bridge built by the Japanese was made entirely out of wood, according to what I read. And when the Japanese retreated away from the front of the war here, they burned this bridge behind them. But at that time, the local people, the farmers and the villagers here, had become quite dependent on the bridge. And for a while they crossed over the river using wooden boats, but then they decided to rebuild the bridge themselves. because they needed the bridge just for their daily lives. And again, as far as I understand the story, that original bridge was also made of wood that the local people built to replace the Japanese bridge, which they burned down. And then that second bridge, the wooden one, built by the villagers, was washed away in a flood and destroyed. And that brings us to this bridge, which was built out of steel. And I don't remember the exact year. I'll track it down and put it up on the screen. So I think a lot of people do come here and they think that they are looking at a classic World War II bridge as built by the Japanese. But it isn't really. It's not even a replica of the original Japanese bridge, because the Japanese bridge, as I said, was burned down by the Japanese themselves. And then the villagers replaced it with a wooden bridge, which was washed away by a flood. And then finally this steel construction was put in place. But here is the sign for the memorial bridge. But I was just going to say that whatever the history of the bridge, and whatever facts we get right or wrong about it when we read about the history, the setting is spectacular. Look at that. The river with the hills and the mist. It's just a gorgeous, romantic setting. And it's not very difficult to imagine back to World War II and picture the Japanese soldiers with the local workers and the elephants building a bridge across this river. What must it have been like back then? That would have been quite extraordinary. Well, my my buddy has come for another head, ear, and neck scratching. He's not the brightest dog in the whole world, I don't think. When I first rode up on my scooter, he was splayed out in the middle of the road. I mean, just courting death, with all the cars and motorcycles seeing him at just the last second. And then some local people that take care of him started whistling at him and clapping their hands and basically encouraging him to, like a dummy, hey, dummy, get off the highway. You're going to get killed. And then he eventually came off the road. And then he started following me, didn't you? Yes. But one thing that came as a complete surprise to me, and I don't know why it would, there is, in fact, a fourth bridge. I don't think it's been in the video yet, but there it is. That is the modern bridge. And I didn't know, I mean, if I'd thought about it, I guess I would have figured it out. It's logical. But in fact, the modern bridge used by traffic today is that one. So it runs exactly parallel to the World War II Memorial Bridge. And for some reason, I was not expecting that at all. When I first rode up here on my scooter, I was confused because all the signs told me I was at the Pi Memorial Bridge, but all I saw was a modern cement bridge. And I thought, well, that can't be the Memorial Bridge. The pictures I saw were quite different. And then as I looked around, I realized, the Memorial Bridge is right beside the modern bridge. And it was actually kind of hidden by it because the base of it is a bit lower than the modern one. So it took me a few seconds to even see that it was here. But it all makes sense. Instead of strengthening this bridge for modern traffic, they just built a brand new one out of concrete. And it is over there. Sun is above the hills now. When I was first coming out here, the sun was just behind the hills, and I got a really beautiful red sky for sunrise. Gorgeous views. It looks like a fair amount of sort of low-key tourism has developed around this bridge because it's a very popular place for visitors. And I guess I saw a sign over there, something about bamboo rafting. So there's some of the bamboo rafts there. So if the water is high enough, I guess you can float down the river on a guided rafting tour. I have no idea how far you would go, though. Right now, the river doesn't seem quite high enough to do that, but maybe it is. And I noticed some bungalows over there, like hotels, resorts, guest houses. And I saw some camping areas nearby. And on both sides of the bridge, on this side in particular, there's a whole series of snack shops, coffee shops, souvenir stalls, things like that. When I was thinking about today and what I was going to do today, I started thinking about connections. And I find connections are extremely exciting things, especially when they happen unexpectedly. And that started this morning, of course, with this Pai Memorial Bridge, because as soon as you start reading about it, it connects to, World War II, history of Japan, the history of Myanmar, Burma, and of course the famous Burma Road, which I read a lot about when I was in Myanmar. The key role, the strategic role that this whole region played during World War II, with China involved and Burma and all the supply routes running through here. You end up with dozens of connections going all throughout history. And since I knew I was coming out to the bridge first thing in the morning, I thought that on my way back into town, I could go to the coffee shop I mentioned the other day. I talked about it when I went to the Pai Canyon. There is a coffee shop, a very famous one, and I didn't know why it was famous. It confused me. It's called Coffee in Love. And when you go to the tour agencies in Pai, and they offer, one-day tours or half-day tours, quite often, Coffee in Love is listed as one of the attractions you visit on the tour. And there are dozens and dozens of coffee shops here, so I could not figure out what was so special about Coffee in Love. And the name puzzled me too, because in English it doesn't make any sense. Coffee in Love? I don't know. I have no idea what that means. I mean, it could be coffee and love. It could be in love with coffee, any combination of those words with other prepositions. But coffee in love doesn't really mean anything to me in English. So I was puzzled by this completely. So I started reading this morning, and it turns out that there are some very good reasons why this coffee shop is so famous. It turns out that it was featured in two very famous movies. One of them, the very first one, was a Thai film, and a kind of a young person's romance, and it was called Pai in Love. The story was set in Pai, and I guess there was a famous scene that took place at the Coffee in Love coffee shop. And because it was featured so prominently in this very famous movie, many people came to this coffee shop because it was in the movie, and then they would have their picture taken, take a selfie in the same places where the characters in the movie were. They would reenact scenes from this famous Thai movie. And as if that wasn't enough, then there was an extremely famous Chinese movie called Lost in Thailand. I've seen it referred to as sort of the Chinese equivalent of The Hangover. And a lot of people say it's much better than The Hangover. And this is amazing. It's on YouTube. So you can find the entire movie Lost in Thailand on YouTube with English subtitles. So I'll be watching that later today, and I'm very excited about that. I scanned through it a little bit, and I watched the trailer, and it looks like a lot of fun. And this movie had a massive impact on Thailand. According to one article that I read, I think this is on Wikipedia actually, that after the movie came out, Chinese tourism in Thailand increased by 70%. as it was a huge movie in China. I think it came out in 2012, and in 2013, as I said, tourism to Thailand increased by 70%. Millions and millions of Chinese people came here to Thailand because of that movie. And key scenes in the movie took place at Coffee in Love. I scanned through the movie a little bit trying to find the scene that took place at the coffee shop, but I couldn't find it. And there's also a yellow house beside Coffee in Love that also plays a part in the movie, apparently. And I couldn't find it either, but now that yellow house is equally famous, and I think you can stay in the yellow house now as a guest. They've turned it into a kind of guest house or hotel. So that's the story behind Coffee in Love. And in addition to all of that, it has a beautiful setting. So I'm gonna hop on my scooter and go to Coffee in Love right now and have my morning coffee there. My day of connections is continuing. I've just arrived at Coffee in Love. The shop is right in front of me there. I think that's the coffee shop right there, that tiny spot. And there's the famous yellow house. But it's a real surprise at how small the place is. Like I said, the sign is bigger than the coffee shop. But it was originally built here, of course, because of that. It's on a hill overlooking that gorgeous valley over there. I don't know whether it's coming across on the GoPro, but the scenery right now is just spectacular. All the mist in the folds of the hills, of the valleys. It's really beautiful. So, I'm gonna park the scooter and go in for some coffee. There's a giant selfie sign here for people. I am Pi. Huh. Not quite sure what that means to say I am Pi. But maybe they put a giant heart in there. You know, I love pie or I heart pie. Another little selfie spot here, a little bench, Coffee in Love. And this is interesting. I'm really looking forward to watching the movie now because I want to see if these places feature in the movie or not. Here, for example, is a large Airstream trailer, and I'm wondering whether that was part of the movie. And there's a couple of different sections to the coffee shop. There's one here, and then there seems to be another one over there. I wonder if they're both part of Coffee in Love. I like their the logo that they've developed. Right here, you can see it. Yeah, it's really nice. It's actually a very Canadian image with the tree leaves changing color in the fall. I thought I'd walk over this way just for a minute before I go into the coffee shop, mainly because they're playing fairly loud music in the coffee shop. So I probably won't be able to run my camera when I'm inside. So if I have anything else to say, I have to say it out here first. Just thought I'd get a closer look at the I am Pi sign right there. But looking directly into the sun, though. Gorgeous scenery. Oh, look at that. It's kind of funny to be here because if I hadn't done this random reading this morning, I would have had no idea that this was a famous coffee shop and that it featured in all these famous movies. And for a while, I guess this place was so popular that you'd find a lot of Chinese tourists here all the time, like big tour buses just rolling up constantly, everybody piling out and taking the selfies to match the scenes from the movies. And if I'd seen all that going on, I would have had no clue at all what was happening. You know, why is this coffee shop is so popular? But now I get the connection. And it connects with some thoughts I've had in the past about how, as humans, we have this urge to recreate things we see. I noticed this decades ago when I was reading a lot of travel books, where people would come up with an idea to go for a trip to some country, some continent around the world. But quite often, instead of just setting off on their own journey and having their own experiences, they would recreate a famous journey from history. So they might read about some famous European explorer from the 18th century and go to Africa and retrace all the places where that person went. And people do the same thing with writers. For example, Hemingway, people will go to places where Hemingway lived, where he traveled, where he wrote his books. So when they go on their holiday, instead of going on their own holiday, they recreate Hemingway's holiday. Or people will want to stay in hotels where famous people stayed. I remember when I went to Ethiopia, there were certain writers, the poet Rimbaud, who lived in Harar for a while and wrote there, and other writers, the hotels where they lived. I met other foreigners like me that were traveling in Ethiopia, and they really wanted to stay in the famous hotel where that famous writer stayed. They wanted to go see the house where Rimbaud lived. And I remember having discussions with them, and my argument was, I don't want to stay in the hotel where, I think, was it Eliot Waugh? That name is jumping into my head for some reason. Some hotel where he stayed in Addis Ababa and wrote. I don't want to recreate his life. I want to live my own life. So I want to go find my own funky, interesting hotel. I want to stay there. You know, then people in the future can go to Ethiopia and recreate my journey in Ethiopia. You know, I want to have my own personal experience. I don't want to recreate someone else's life. I want to live my own life. So I just find all of that interesting where, and you get, the connections with places made famous by movies. I was thinking, Pi made famous by these two movies I mentioned. The one from China, Lost in Thailand, I think it was the highest grossing movie, the highest grossing Chinese language movie up to that point in China. It was that popular, and it basically made Pi a popular tourism destination for the people of China. A movie did that. And I remember there's a town in Taiwan called Zhoufen. And Zhoufen on its own is a very beautiful place and very, very much worth visiting. I went there several times. But a lot of people go there because it was made famous by the movie, I think City of Sadness was the very first movie that was shot in Zhoufen. And that movie made the town famous. And people went there to see the town that they saw in the movie. And there is this idea that Spirited Away by Miyazaki was based on Zhoufen. And a lot of people say that and repeat that story. I don't think it's true, though. Miyazaki himself has said no. He'd never been to Zhoufen. He didn't know anything about it. He just created Spirited Away out of his own imagination. But a lot of people believe that Spirited Away was based on the city of Zhoufen, and that's why they go to that city to visit it. Now that I have some of my thoughts about connections out of my brain and out of the way, I can go in and enjoy a cup of coffee, even if they have loud music playing. And I think I read that people are very excited about the bathrooms here. They're supposed to be quite interesting, cute, or something like that. So anyway, I just noticed the door to the bathroom was open, so I thought I'd take a look. But I guess that's what makes them special. They turn them into a little indoor garden. worth pointing out perhaps. And it looks like these two areas are part of the same place. So there's this area up here where you can sit. Maybe I'll go up there. And then there's the main coffee area there. It was as I suspected, and the music inside the coffee shop was playing kind of non-stop, so I couldn't record any video inside there. But yeah, I enjoyed it. To be honest, I'm looking forward more to now watching the movies, and I want to see exactly how this place fits into the storyline of those two movies that I mentioned, Lost in Thailand and Pie in Love. I'm trying to guess exactly what happened in those movies here at the coffee shop, but yeah, it'll be fun to find out. I've noticed a bunch of people taking pictures over this direction with a kind of a red truck, and I'm wondering whether that truck features in the movie because they're all taking selfies with that truck. And there's the Airstream mobile home over there. Could that be from the movie? I think there's something to do with bicycles because there's some old bicycles here. I think those are from the movies as well. We'll find out. The next stop in my connections tour is something I spotted on Google Maps that they call the Pai Land Split. And that name was so unusual, I thought I had to check it out. And I don't know much about the history, but apparently it is essentially a giant gash in the earth, like a kind of like a ravine, and it was formed during an earthquake. There was an earthquake and it split open the land and formed this sort of underground ravine. And an enterprising farmer, I guess it's on his land, and he's turned it into a tourist attraction. So I'm a tourist, I'll bite, I'll go take a look at the land split. And there's a coffee shop there. In terms of it being a connection, I'm not quite sure what it connects to in my mind, though I have thought about earthquakes quite a bit in my life. I spent some time in the city of Antigua in Guatemala, and they experienced tons of earthquakes there. And there was one moment in particular when I was up on top of a volcano nearby. You know, you go climbing around there, climb up on the volcano, and while I was up there, an earthquake struck. And from that height, you could actually see the earthquake on the land below. it was actually moving in ripples like waves on water. Basically, the earth had turned into water, and you could see the waves of the earthquake flowing through the land just like a wave would flow through water. And that was eye-opening. It's quite something to see and feel the earth moving under your feet in ways. The earth is not supposed to move that way, so earthquakes can be quite freaky experiences. And if an earthquake really did create this land split, yeah, that's quite something. First, I have to find the road that leads to the land split. I found the access road, and the Pai land split is just 2 kilometers up this direction. And according to Google Maps, there is a little coffee shop right beside it called something like the Smile Buffalo Coffee. I always enjoy the names that people come up with here. You can sort of sense that, well, you know, yeah, they're all English words, Smile Buffalo Coffee. And maybe it was translated from Thai, means something in Thai. But I couldn't guess what a smiling buffalo looks like. I also wasn't able to find out when this earthquake occurred. Was this in recent life experience, like lifetime? Like this earthquake happened just a few decades ago and people remember it? Or was this earthquake millennia ago, eons ago? And the only way we know that an earthquake formed this land split is through geology and science. Another coffee shop, Chez Chic Cafe. And I have no idea what's involved in visiting this land split. Is there a sign? I feel like I've already gone past it. But I didn't see the Smile Buffalo coffee shop yet. And I think this land split is open to the public, even though it's on private property. Ah. My kind of people. There's a sign. Land split, 500 meters. A waterfall in 3.5 kilometers and a bamboo bridge in 5 kilometers. Yeah, I was reading about the bamboo bridge as well, and that's on my itinerary for this morning. I think I've gone past it. This place might be a victim of that habit I've talked about in Thailand before, where I'm looking for a place and there will be all kinds of signs before you get to a place, but then when you arrive, there isn't a sign right at the place telling you where exactly to turn. So I passed all these roads, or all these signs pointing me in this direction, but then there was no sign at the land split itself, at least none that I saw. Well, all I saw was a gate with the word close on it. And I think that is the entrance to the farm with the land split. And apparently it is not open to visitors. But again, I'm just guessing. Oddly enough, there's a zip line operation here on the left, and Pai Zipline Coffee. Hey there, look at this guy. And I think this is the site right here. But it is, there's no actual sign that says anything about the landslip, but it's closed anyway. Check out that dog there. He came running up to the gate, tail wagging. Big friendly guy. So as far as the landslip goes, I'm going to have to be satisfied with looking at the gate and a very big friendly dog. But all is not lost. It's never lost when you get a nice road like this heading into the countryside. And I'm going to keep going down the road and go to this bamboo bridge. And the connection there, of course, is that I just visited quite a fascinating bamboo bridge near Mae Hong Son. And I went there 2 times actually. So I've been thinking a lot about bamboo bridges, and the fact that they have one here in Pai is good for me. I can take a look at this bamboo bridge and compare it to the one in Mae Hong Son. So I've just arrived at the entrance to the Pambuk Bamboo Bridge. And a few things jump out at me right away. One is, at a lot of these places, I keep yearning for at least one coffee shop. But here, in this whole area, there's like an abundance of riches. There are coffee shops everywhere, which is so kind of odd because the road coming in here was a very small country road, very rough, very bumpy, doesn't seem to be going anywhere of any particular note, and yet there are coffee shops everywhere. And then there's coffee shops at the entrance to the Bamboo Bridge Park, and I think there is a coffee shop right here inside. You get to it on the Bamboo Bridge. So yeah, no complaints about coffee shops. And the other mystery may have been solved, the smiling buffalo idea, because there's a model of a buffalo here, a carabao, a water buffalo, and I swear it's smiling. That seems to be a thing in this area. I'll show you. So there's the sign for Pambuk. The village here, the name of the village is Pambuk. And there's the coffee shop I mentioned right there. And there is a like a souvenir shop right there. And it looks like there's another restaurant, cafe, coffee shop over there. And my smiling buffalo, check this out, is right here. Now, am I wrong? Or is this a smile? I'm pretty sure that is a pretty big smile on this water buffalo. The bamboo bridge that I visited near Mae Hong Son came with a very clear story. The idea being that the bamboo bridge connected the village with the temple, and it was built to allow easy access for the monks to walk back and forth from the temple to the village, and I assume vice versa. But I don't know about this bamboo bridge. I don't know if it has any kind of a history or a story. I don't know why it was built in the first place. Maybe it had a practical purpose, but at the moment, I think it is clearly a place for us, a place for visitors to come visit. We've got some carabao right here. Came down to get a drink. Not sure if I see any smiles yet or not. But yeah, here's the bamboo bridge. So I'm going to walk along it, of course, see where it goes. There are a whole bunch of carabao out in this direction. I always enjoy the birds that come along with carabao. Hop up on their backs, ride, kind of treat them as taxis. They get to ride around the field, ride on their backs. That's always kind of cool. I read a few reviews online, Google Maps reviews of this place. And a pretty common theme is that for the best scenery or the biggest impact of this bamboo bridge, and clearly any bamboo bridge, is to come during the rainy season when the rice fields are flooded and full of growing rice. Right now, of course, we've left the rainy season behind. So the fields all around me are not particularly scenic right now. I guess they would be much nicer during the rainy season when they're full of rice. But you can't always choose when you are where, right? If you're here in the rainy season, then you have to deal with all the rain. One of my favorite things, a chance to feed the fish. Welcome to donate money to buy food for the fish and pupils. Money used to purchase for the fish food and for school lunch pupils. For the Pambok School, the Pang Poing School, the Mae Ilap School. Thank you so much. So of course I will take part, get some fish food. Now that I'm here, standing here, I've mentioned with other ponds that the fish are not as dumb as you might think, because they know exactly when someone is standing here. They're aware of things, and they usually come rushing over when they sense that somebody has arrived and might be feeding them. But so far, maybe because the water is so murky, can't see them. We'll see. I'll get some fish food and see what happens. I really appreciate how well organized this is, I have to say. It's a really nice display for the fish food and an amazing sign in English to explain exactly what's going on. Big fan of signs. And an even bigger fan of signs in English, of course. Let's see what the fish think of this. Fish food. I'm not convinced as yet that there are any fish out there. Let's see. Whoop. Let's see what happens when I toss some of this. Oh, I saw some movement, a little bit of movement down there. But not, not a big reaction. Come on, fish, where are you? Oh, look at that. There they are. Catfish. That's why it's different here. giant catfish, and they're all down on the bottom. That's why you can't see them. These aren't koi. Look at that. Scary looking creatures, aren't they, when they come up to the surface like that? Oh, that's so interesting. They come straight up from the bottom, snag one of those pellets, and then they go back down again. Huh. Look at that. You can really see their whiskers when they break the surface like that. Definitely a connection for this to my childhood, because I've never been much of an outdoors person, really. I'm not a hunter, I'm not a fisherman, nothing like that. But when I was a kid with my friends in my hometown, we would hop on our bikes and go riding around, go have adventures, go exploring, and there was a place in my hometown called Perch Creek, and we would often go fishing there. And most of that, well, you want to catch perch, of course, good eating fish. You know, we would always let everything go, of course. We weren't there to eat the fish. But we'd want to catch perch, but most of the time what we caught were these fish, these giant catfish. And I think most of us were scared of them because we had this idea that their whiskers were poisonous and that they could sting us with those whiskers. So I was always very afraid of catfish, and I hated catching them. And they were also really slimy and just kind of weird. You kind of throw your hook out there hoping to catch a trout or a beautiful perch or something, or a bass, something like that, and you end up with one of these sea monsters instead. And they can get huge. It's amazing to think that they're all down there at the bottom of the lake all the time, just waiting. They just love to be in the mud on the bottom. You know, that's where catfish hang out. So interesting. The last of the fish pellets. I like this place. You can tell that the Pambuk villagers went out of their way to try and make this as interesting as possible for visitors. There's even a platform here with a replica of a Thailand mailbox. Or maybe it's real. Maybe you could post a letter there, I don't know. But they have as I said, the coffee shop and the fish pond, and there's some swings here and there. And they built a large shrine here in the middle. There's Buddha images up there, so if you're a Buddhist, you could come here and make an offering. And yeah, in the rainy season, in the rice growing season, this would be very beautiful. Oh, look at that, okay. Huh? This is something I've been seeing lately. And I just remembered there was a story that I was talking about these stairways to nowhere, or stairways to heaven, or I'm not quite sure what they're called. That they've got this stairway, and you climb up the stairs, and you end up nowhere. And yet there's some point to it, though I don't know at all what the point could be. So I'm going to give this a try, but I also want to attempt a Google Translate on that sign. Maybe I'll get a clue as to what's going on here. Yeah, it says kind of what I suspected. It translates as Heaven's Staircase. So I guess just because it goes up into the air and stops, it doesn't go anywhere in particular, but it's going up into the sky. It is going to heaven. So let's see how that works out. Ah, it's nice and solid. That's what you want in your stairway to heaven. It's starting to shake more and more up here. It's kind of funny though that in all these household ladders, the one safety rule they always have is you never ever stand on the very top step, because of course you could fall. Yeah, this is kind of well, this is kind of freaky. It's hard to relax up here. I didn't think it would be so hard. My legs are like locked. I don't dare relax. Come on, you can do it. Just relax your legs. Wow, there we go. Okay. And it's really hard to keep my balance. Why is it so hard? I guess it's a psychological thing. Because you're up here so high, it just affects everything. All right, deep breath and just relax. The funny thing is, if you're standing on this platform 5 inches above the ground, you'd have no trouble at all. But the fact that I'm, I don't know, 25 feet above the ground, at least right below me is a ditch, and it's very muddy. So if I do go over the side, I'm going to aim for the mud. Yeah, okay, I'm starting to get used to it. I'm starting to relax. Stairway to heaven. All right, now we got to get back down again. There we go. Well, I'll tell you, that's not as easy as it looks. Maybe I've gained some merit by doing that. I'm still kind of buzzing from my stairway to heaven experience. I'm still walking along the bamboo bridge. I think I'm basically going towards the end of it. There's the, this is where I'm heading towards. Oh, look at that. They've built cement posts to carry the bridge. It kind of tells me this whole extension maybe was built for visitors, you know, as a deliberate tourist attraction. If so, that's really quite smart of them. A way for a village out here to make some money. Oh my goodness, no, dude, look at that. It keeps going. Goes across the creek and onto the other side. Oh, I thought it just ended right up here, but no, it keeps going. And I had an interesting experience because just as I was coming down from the stairway to heaven, another foreigner showed up, a young woman, and so we were chatting. Turns out she has a GoPro Hero 9 with her, so we're talking about GoPros a little bit. And yeah, she put me to shame as far as that stairway goes, because I mean, I was up there, I was frozen in fear. I mean, my legs like literally were just locked in place. I couldn't unlock them. And she just went up there like it was nothing. She asked me to take a couple of pictures of her with her phone. So I did, and while she was up there, she was just like throwing her arms in the air and doing all these dramatic pauses, like being 30 feet off the ground was nothing at all. So take that for what it's worth. If you come across this stairway to heaven, yeah, just climb up there and don't worry about it. because apparently I'm a fraidy cat when it comes to stairways to heaven. That was very cool to see all these men going by with big loads of bamboo over their shoulder. I guess they were out cutting bamboo, because it would take a lot of work maintaining a bridge like this. You'd have to have I assume you'd have to have some kind of a schedule. It's almost like, here's another connections everywhere, where bridges, like big bridges that I know about, painting goes on year round, because the painting crew might start at one end of the bridge and be painting it all year, moving across the bridge. And by the time they finish and get to the other side, it's time to start over again from the beginning. So the painting is just sort of continuous. It's just such a large structure, and it's open, exposed to the elements. And of course they have to keep the metal protected so it doesn't weaken from rust and exposure, stuff like that. And a bamboo bridge would be the same, where they must have a schedule where they are constantly replacing the bamboo in certain areas, and they know what areas need to be replaced next. And yeah, maybe it's a year-round task, I assume. I wonder if it's all voluntary. Like there's a village council and all the money goes into a communal village kitty, and then they ask people to donate a certain number of hours per year maintaining the bridge for visitors like me. Yeah, who knows? I've reached a spot where they're clearly doing some repairs, replacing some of the bamboo here. Oh, look at this. This is all fresh. Ah, very cool. It's green. And it looks like all the bamboo that was removed down there, they burn it. Huh. There's a pile there. Another pile over there waiting to be set alight. But all the new bamboo, yeah, you can feel it. It's much sturdier, much stronger. And I guess it's fresh because it's green. Bamboo, amazing material. I've often thought about it as a plant, and how the human race is sort of, in history, must have thought they were so blessed that this plant existed, because you could find so many uses for it. It's pretty incredible that out in the forest you find something like this. You can build almost anything with it. I can't believe how long this bridge goes. Very impressed. And I'm thinking that could very well be the official end of the bamboo bridge, just at the base of the hill there. Yeah, it's quite a structure, I have to say. Much more elaborate than I expected, much longer. Getting closer to the end. It feels like bamboo bridges like this could really be a thing. And it's like they're crying out for a whole range of new traditions and customs. Like you follow the bridge all the way to the end, and then you find something there, thinking of something like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But when you get to the end of the bamboo bridge, what do you find? you know, some kind of a wishing well, something. Huh. I thought that might be the end of it over there. And the bamboo bridge does reach the ground, but it's continuing ahead of me here. I'm thinking this must truly be the end, but I won't say that quite yet, because I won't say that till I'm absolutely sure. But I came across a bundle of fresh bamboo that had just been cut down and cut into strips. And it's actually much thicker than I expected for some reason. You can see it compared to my, you know, it's as thick as one of my fingers, some of these pieces. So yeah, very strong stuff. I wonder if a bamboo bridge makes an appearance in Lost in Thailand or Pie in Love. Feels like it would. I think a bridge like this, made of bamboo, would fit in very nicely in a romantic movie, right? Lots of opportunities here for star-crossed lovers to finally get their act together and get together. But look at this. Isn't that nice? It's like a set of cottages. Beautiful wood carving up here on the bridge. And this strikes me as a bridge that could have a troll underneath it. I suppose that could be something to do with bamboo bridge customs and traditions as well. They could start up a story that a certain kind of supernatural creature lives underneath the bamboo bridges. And this might be the explanation for the bridge, because it says here, please respect the place with appropriate clothing. And dear visitor, please return the borrowed clothes here when you leave. So that tells me, of course, that this is a Buddhist shrine or temple of some type. And it's possible that the bridge was originally built to lead to this temple. Of course, it could easily be the other way around, that maybe the temple was built as a place for the bridge to end. I don't know. But I think there was probably a shrine here originally, and the bridge was built to allow for easy access to the shrine and the temple. That's where I came from back there. This is really nice. It's a stupa, but completely different from any I've seen before, made completely out of stone, all the way to the top. Isn't that interesting? I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. And the final place. Wow, this is really nice. Anything made of so much wood is always appealing. Look at that. Huh. This whole structure inside is made of wood as well. There seems to be something else on the other side of that wooden shrine, crossing this bridge. Whoa. Ah, so I guess this is the main site at the end of the bamboo bridge. A full temple. The Forest Temple Huay Kai Kiri, Walled Temple Huay Kai Kiri. And they have it written in Japanese and Korean as well. Look at this. Beautiful gateway. Again, all made out of wood into a forest complex. And a little garden spot here. Very interesting. Look at that. So I think this is the main temple. The shrine that I just saw, that wooden one up there, is part of this complex, of course. But I guess the main temple is up here. Oh, look at that, some fresh bamboo, a bamboo grove or cluster. I still don't know what to call them. A bamboo plant? Is this a bamboo forest? A bamboo grove? Or is that a bamboo cluster? Yeah, some yellow bamboo. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna go inside the Huai Kai Kiri temple. At first I thought it said wild temple because it's in a forest, you know, it's in the wilderness, but it's the walled temple, Huai Kai Kiri, but I don't know what that means. Looks like they're, yeah, just part of the name, I guess, the forest temple. And I believe I've reached the end of the trail for the bamboo bridge. It brought me up here to an actual large temple complex in the forest. And here's the central shrine, I believe. Really beautiful. So much wood all around. Look at the size of this kind of wooden bell here. Beautiful spot. And I think right here at the temple in the forest, surrounded by beautiful forest and lots of bamboo clusters. It's really nice up here. The very end of the trail of the bamboo bridge. I think I'll end my morning small adventures here. Yeah, I really enjoyed this morning's little excursion, all the little places that I went. The World War II Memorial Bridge, Coffee in Love, and now I'm looking forward to watching Lost in Thailand later today. That one on YouTube has English subtitles, so I'll definitely watch that one first, and then I'll look for Love in Pai. And then now the bamboo bridge with my stairway to heaven and the catfish. Yeah, lots of interesting things this morning. Yeah, good day so far. And with that, I will see you in the next video.